Let's bring in Fawaz Gerges. He's in London and a professor of international relations at the London School of Economics. As always, so good to have you on the program. We're talking about Iraq here. As you heard in Priyanka's report, we expect the turnout to be lower than in previous elections. Is that a bad thing that we're seeing, that people just decide to stay at home and boycott this election?
Well, it's not just lower. According to public opinion surveys, voter turnout will be the lowest turnout in the past 20 years since the US invaded and occupied Iraq in 2003. And this not only reflects political apathy on the part of most Iraqis, but also, I think, a crisis of legitimacy. Most Iraqis are disillusioned with the political process because of chronic corruption, high unemployment among Iraqis, young Iraqis, and of course, the lack of public services and goods. And that's why, according to public opinion surveys, the high turnout will be around 40% and the low turnout will be around 25%. So we're talking about 30% of Iraqis voting, and this tells you a great deal about the challenges facing the next government in Iraq.
Now, Iraqi politicians there in the country, they've been known to sort of offer empty promises. Is that another factor here, do you think, that, ahead of these elections, they say they're going to do all these things, but then nothing ever happens?
That's exactly really the challenge facing the Iraqi political class. Many Iraqis, again, according to surveys, this is not just analysis, are very skeptical about the promises by Iraqi politicians because they know it's business as usual. They know that basically faces and names changes, but of course the pattern is the same. I mean, just to give your viewers a glimpse of what I'm talking about, Iraq, after the fall of former President Saddam Hussein, is ranked among one of the most corrupt countries in the world, probably as high as 160 out of 168 countries. Iraq is a very wealthy state. It has one of the largest oil reserves in the world. But of course, what you have since the Americans invaded and occupied Iraq, they created a sectarian and ethnic-based system. So the system itself really faces a structural problem because most of what we're seeing today and before in the election, it's all about ethnic and sectarian political positioning as opposed to really social and political issues that define the needs of Iraqis.
So polling stations closed about an hour and 15 or something ago. We're not going to have results until sometime in the next 24 hours. But if you look at the candidates who are running in this parliamentary election, do you see any sort of signs of hope among these people who are now trying to get a seat in the new parliament?
You know, it's not about me and you and all of us. It's about what Iraqis say. Iraqis, the surveys, the public surveys, multiple surveys, show that Iraqis are disillusioned. They do not really believe that the elections will produce any real, genuine change. They believe it's business as usual. Even though the Iraqi Prime Minister, Mohammed al-Sudani, has made some changes. I mean, you have a glut in construction. You have stability and security. Unlike Lebanon and Syria and Libya and Yemen, now Iraq, you have a stable political system. And Iraqis enjoy this kind of stability after many, many decades of instability and war and conflict. And the new prime minister, the prime minister of Iraq, al-Sudani, basically portrays himself as the real leader who can really balance geopolitics between Iran and the United States. Iraq finds itself pressed between Iraq, the rock of American military presence in Iraq and Prussia, and a harder place, Iranian influence. And the prime minister has succeeded to a large extent in balancing, counterbalancing both the United States and Iran. And in this particular sense, I mean, there is relative consensus that Mohammed al-Sudani could be basically appointed as the next prime minister bearing a major change in the result of the elections in the next 24 hours.
So do you see a lot of international influence then regarding what's happening in Iraq? You mentioned Iran, you've mentioned the US. There's also countries such as Saudi Arabia that also plays a role here, right?
Oh, absolutely. In the past few years, the Iraqi leadership has been trying to basically balance its geopolitics by deepening relations with the Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan, in order to counterbalance Iran. But at this particular moment, the struggle is between the United States and Iran. The Trump administration is really putting a lot of pressure on the Iraqi prime minister to disarm the Iran's linked popular mobilizational forces or militias and try to basically get them out of the government. Because Iran's linked militias are very powerful. They control some government ministries and are armed. So this is why the Iraqi prime minister is trying to walk a fine line, try to keep a rough distance between Iran, which really has major political and ideological influence in Iraq, and the Americans that are exerting a great deal of pressure on Iraq. The Americans still have about 1,300 troops in Iraq under the pretext to fight ISIS or Daesh in Iraq and Syria.
A very big and important election today, of course. Fawaz Gerges, always good to have you on the program and to hear your analysis. Thank you so much, sir.